Previously on the Embracing the Journey podcast.
So this guy that we're interviewing today is a certified cynologist. It is a dog scientist. He is well known in the dog world. He's been on things like America's Top Dog, documentary TV, a plethora of other things. And he's also a college instructor, Mr. John Anthony.
I think as the world's needs change, we will continue to find new practical usage for the canine. And that's part of what we're doing with our animal assisted intervention program and our LED 21 program.
Have you ever worked with a dog that you've actually been afraid of?
Oh yeah, weekly. And I opened the crate and she bit me like 5 times. I slammed the crate, lock it, go to urgent care, get fixed up and come back. And I'm just sitting in the parking lot like, how is this going to work?
Right. So if I'm a person that's committed a crime and I hear the police say, hey, surrender or we're sending in the canine, what would you tell the offender when they hear that?
I'll give up.
Why is that?
Because you can negotiate with a human being. Whatever the situation is, I'm giving up.
Welcome back to Embracing the Journey podcast. Just to put things into perspective, not only are these dogs like dogs that will protect anything that you tell them to, but these are also pets to you.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think the days of a dog being in a kennel and never coming in the house, and these days are over. I think the world, but in particular law enforcement, is wanting a different experience. They want dogs that you can do coffee with the cop and have the dog there and be friendly. You know, you got to be able to be effective in the work and also be a PR event at this point, and a good PR event, right? You don't want dogs biting kids at the meet and greet kind of a thing. So all of the dogs that we train get probably 250 concentrated hours of house love pet time.
Interesting. So you got a newborn. You got my niece.
Yes.
Right.
Genesis.
Love her to death. How do the dogs act and exist around her?
Well, this is my first child, so I didn't want to leave anything to chance. And my wife is not the kind of wife that's very forgiving, right? Like the baby is the one non-negotiable thing. So I read every book on bird dogs that exists, like maybe 100 books. And I've trained my dogs to treat my daughter a lot like a bird. And when you watch a real bird dog, they're not chomping the bird. They're not doing anything with the bird. The bird belongs to the boss. And they'll go get it when it's time, but that's it. That's the end of it. And so my dogs have gotten the education that this person is extremely important to me. And you have one job. And it's non-negotiable, and that's the only time they can do something stupid and not get in trouble, as long as it's in defense of. And again, I don't leave it to chance. So we work on scenarios with the stroller where she's in it, and then scenarios where she's not, scenarios where she's in the car. Like we've worked on it, and because she's grown up around them, she's like inoculated. The sound doesn't bother her. And now that she's eating human food, the dogs love her even more because they know they just have to be patient.
Right.
And she's at some point going to start a one-person food fight, and they're going to benefit. So that's her new thing now, is treating her friends.
So she's crawling around, moving, but I'm sure she's curious. So she's pulling, she's biting, she's yanking, and these dogs have no response to that.
They have no response, but they because my dogs work as canine courtroom advocates too. So when kids have to go to court and testify about what happened to them or testify against who did it, the dogs go into court with them, and they're generally next to them. So we've inoculated them to being pulled and poked and prodded and bitten and all, whatever a kid can think of. We pretty much trained against it. That's what I thought. My daughter's got this little buggy that she sits in and rides around, like runs around the house in. That has added a new level of terrorism to the house. So we're trying to train against that currently, but now they just run away from her. Like she starts, going crazy, running around, and they'll just move. So what we've done now that we have it gated, is they can all jump the gate and go downstairs. So the moment she's in that buggy, even the cats are downstairs. Yeah, everybody's out.
Crazy. What is being a father like? Like, especially coming from the background that we have.
Yeah.
What is being a father like?
It's an interesting question. I think my stepfather, your actual father, was so tuned into us that I think a lot of what he was doing I took for granted, you know? Like he would always come down with us, right, on the ground, and we would color and we build stuff, Legos. We had all these things. So I learned a lot from him. Guys like Ray Butler, you know, they showed me a lot on how to be a father that I didn't even know I was learning at the time. So for me, it's a mix of like joy and complete terror almost every day, but the joy tends to outweigh it because there's just these moments. I had a dear friend at my place, Sasheen, great woman. She's diversity, inclusion, equity at BCU. She's at my house, and I didn't know she was in the living room. But I had my daughter in the kitchen, and she literally looked at me and said, "I love you, Dada." No joke. And I thought I was alone in the house. So I start talking to her like, "I can't believe you just said that." Nobody heard it. I'm like looking towards the cameras, and she walks around the corner and was like, "I heard that." So that moment changed everything. And like she's learning sign language. You know, she has a beautiful woman in her life named Ellen who's teaching her sign language. And I get a good amount of daddy duty alone because my wife is in law school. So 2 days ago, we're at the house and like I got this laminated sheet of chores and I got all the alarms that go off. You know, my wife is one of those people and it's great. I sometimes need reminders, but I'm sitting at the table next to her looking at the sheet and I look over and she goes,
"Food, hungry."
"Oh, food." And then she did that and I was like, "Oh, milk." And I panicked, but then it hit me like, yo, she's actually telling me what she needs.
Right. And not crying.
And she's like 8-9 months. So when she did that, that was like probably one of the happiest moments of my life.
That quick.
It was crazy. But like when it happens, it's different than TV. It's different than somebody telling you because this is a person you created and they love you and they look at you. In a lot of ways, they look at you like a dog, right? Like if we could be the people that our dogs think we are, the world would be a much better place. And I think the same thing is true with a child. So when she does things like that, it makes fatherhood super cool. But then like I learned yesterday on the way to the airport to come here that she can actually pull herself out of her car seat. And I learned that because I'm prepping all the diapers and everything. And then I turn around because I'm in the cell phone a lot at the airport. And then I look back and she's gone out of the car seat. And you know me, it was about to turn into John Wick 5. And I'm panicking and like I'm running around. I open the trunk. I'm like, babies don't disappear, which my wife doesn't even know the story. This is going to be terrible when she sees this. But I come around and she's sitting on the ground on the passenger side in the back. She's just sitting there. Playing,
just hanging out.
Just playing with something. And I was like, did she fall? Did she climb? Like what exactly happened? But she seemed fine. So I picked her up and put her back in the car seat. But like that was a terrifying moment.
Right.
Yeah, so
and it can happen so quick.
It always happens quick. Like there was a day where I'd fallen asleep trying to put her to sleep. And I wake up and she's got Ritz crackers in both hands. And she's like double fisting these Ritz crackers are all over my chest. And like, I don't know, can babies eat Ritz crackers? Like, I think so. So I'm like, hey, Google. And I'm trying to figure out, is she gonna be sick from Ritz crackers? So there's all that kind of little stuff. But I'd say for the most part, it's been a great experience.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Different.
Weird.
Quiet.
Mighty.
Unstoppable.
Incredible.
What makes you different makes you great.
Embrace your punch.
Welcome back to Embracing the Journey podcast, a story I'll never forget. So when I was sitting in the waiting room before she was born, you had called me I called you. Me and one of your employees we were up all night trying to put together.
That was a rough night.
It was. But so we get down to the hospital and you call me and we're in the waiting room and you're like, I think something's happening. And I'm like, okay. Like I didn't know what the hell to say. So I'm trying to be as supportive as I can. I'm like, okay, so what do we got? Like, what do we need to do? I hear the nurse say, John, are you ready? And you're like, am I ready for what? And then the phone just hung up.
So what actually happened was I came out to see you guys, right?
Yeah.
And when I came back in the room, she looked at me and was like, "Champ, it's time to scrub in." Now, I am a champ, right? But only one of us went to Harvard to do this. So I had no idea she was talking to me. So I turned around and looked behind me and I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" And she was like, "You." And that was what you heard, was her say, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I ain't go to medical school. Like, that's why you're here. And it's nothing like the movies, right? There's a whole thing. So they had me stand by her head, and the nurse looked at me and she was like, "No disrespect, but I can tell you're a fainter." And so she handed me a stool and said, "Put that behind you."
Did you faint?
I didn't faint. I got a little wobbly for a second.
Yeah.
Yo, that's a lot, bro. It's like, I don't even want to go into the details of what it is, but it's nothing like Grey's Anatomy. I promise you.
I never even seen an episode though.
No, yeah, no. Pick any TV. It's nothing like that. What's going on is real, bro.
Wait. So I know you, and I know how you are when it comes to people that you care about. What was it like seeing your wife in pain, and this isn't something that you can take away from her, beat it up, like, or anything like that? Like, what was that like?
It felt like it was one of the few times I've ever felt completely helpless. But she was a soldier. Like, she was talking me off the cliff because I didn't know what was going on.
The weirdest thing is, a few hours later when I got to go in and meet her, I asked your wife, I was like, "So how was it?" And she was like, "It actually wasn't that bad."
Yo, like, you think about, we were in like in Atlanta, kicking it, rooftop, having dinner.
Yeah.
And then she was having a baby.
Everybody there, mind you, everybody at dinner was like, "Do we need to go to the hospital?" And she kept saying, "No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine." And I'm like, we're like 10 minutes away.
And then we drove an hour home and got home, and she's like, "All right, I need to go.
I gotta go." And walked herself to the car.
Yeah, no, she was a soldier. She was talking to me, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No. What would you like me to do right now?" Because what do you do in that situation? And I know myself, I don't have the constitution to watch, so I'm standing by her head, trying to like do it. And then I sat down on the bench, and then the nurse started giving me instructions. She's like, we put the cold towel on her head, and like, it wasn't. She didn't cuss me out. Like, my wife didn't cuss me out or anything crazy. Like, but they had me do some essential oils, like start the little machine up, and then I don't know why I did this, and she may not even remember it, but there was like a Bible in the room.
Right.
I don't know whose Bible it was, and I just started reading it
During the pregnancy.
during the whole
whole delivery.
I
Just reading the Bible.
just reading it like out loud. I don't know why, it just felt like the right thing to do.
Wait, what?
And then at one point the nurse was like, "So I need you to hold her leg." And I was like, "Nothing about my life has suggested I'm qualified to do what you're asking me to do right now." She's like, "Just hold it." So she hands me, and I'm like holding the leg, and then I hear the baby start to cry, like, and that was a crazy moment. But at that point, I think Shireen just like went to sleep.
Would you do it again?
I didn't really do anything. I was just like a bad executive assistant. So yeah, I think I have a bench, probably.
Another Bible, probably.
Yeah, some music, I think. Maybe like some calming sounds. There might have even been music playing, but everything just got, like, I kind of blacked out, man.
Let me ask you this. What was it? I was there actually, but I want to hear from your perspective. What was it like being in the hospital for the time that you guys were there, and then just being sent home with a baby? Like, did you feel prepared, or were you like?
I had read everything you can read. I watched all the YouTube videos. I talked to everybody I know. I went to the fire department because I didn't trust myself. Like, I pulled up at the fire department and knocked on the door, and the guy was like, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "Can you help me with this car seat?" And he was like, "Yeah." So he came out and set the car seat up, and I'm like, "Would you put your baby in this?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So I was prepared from like a logistical standpoint, but driving home from the hospital with your new baby, everybody's going too fast. Everything's moving too fast. So I think
Longest drive home ever, huh?
Well, it literally was. If you remember, I went like 25 miles an hour. I had my hazards on the freeway. Like at one point, I thought I was going to get pulled over because I was obstructing traffic.
Right.
People honking at me. And like at that point, I didn't have the baby on board sign. I don't know if people even care about that, but there was a few times I just kind of pulled over and needed to decompress.
Right.
But I legitimately went 25 miles an hour on the freeway.
In Atlanta
the whole way home with the hazards on.
Hey, I'm not opposed to that.
Bro, if I could have put a bike helmet on, I would have had a bike helmet on everybody. Everybody in the car got a bike helmet. Because they're so fragile. And like their eyes aren't even open and they just,
You asked the nurse the funniest question I've ever heard. But I didn't want to laugh because like it was one of those moments where like everybody in this room, they're just full of love. You were like, is my daughter's head always going to look like that?
It looked weird. They don't prep you when they come out on TV. The babies are like smiling, they look regular, but when they come out in real life, their heads have to do a thing to be able to get out. And like I didn't know that, so when she had a cone head, and I was like, "Yo, I don't think she's supposed to look like this." And the lady was like, "I've been doing this 40 years. She's fine." And then she picked her up and just kind of like snatched her legs and was holding her like a dead piece of meat. And that was when I left the room because. What do you do? Like, I never, like, don't snatch my, like, what are we doing? But they said that was the oldest, most experienced nurse there. My wife being who she is, I think she handpicked all of the people she wanted and like Googled them and looked at their LinkedIn and ran background checks and all of that. So the lady was cool. She was a great nurse, but when you're a new parent, there's things you don't fully understand. And like the babies are super durable and all of that. Like that's what they tell you anyway. But when she snatched her legs up, I was like,
it was a bit much.
That was a lot for me.
I'm crying right now.
That was a lot.
So what was it like the first night at your place? You got dogs everywhere. You got like your family everywhere. You got your family. And then you got this newborn that is now your responsibility for the next 18 years.
Yeah. It was a cool night. It was stressful. I think I sent you a picture. My German Shepherd Lazarus just went underneath her crib and slept right there. So that helped me. But then I ended up feeling like, well, what if something happened in the middle of the night? So then I set up a little pallet and I had like a Rambo knife and a cattle prod and, like a first aid kit.
Hold on. What were you going to do with the cattle joint?
I have no idea. Well, in case, somebody come in. It gets zapped up or something. None of it made sense. But like, and even the first aid kit I had was like a dog first aid kit. I grabbed the wrong
joint.
Kit. But yeah, I don't think I slept a wink that night because they make noise, but it's faint. You can't really hear it. And even the cries, at that point, I feel like they're still learning how to cry because this is their first time breathing air and like going through that. So yeah, I don't think I slept a wink the first 2 nights.
So we hear about this like motherly intuition where you can hear a baby cry, you can hear your baby crying like 2 miles away. Do you have that same spidey sense?
I do. What's weird is my dogs naturally will tell me too. They will come get me if she's having any sort of issue. We've joked around and like tested it. I'll put her in a room with the dog and all she really got to do is and they're coming out and muzzle punching me and like hurting me to her. So that's great because I feel.
Are they doing it because they're freaked out or they're doing it because that's their job now?
Both. I'm not really sure. That I didn't teach. That they just kind of did.
And what does it look like from a dog perspective to see something eye level to them walking around the house that was once theirs?
I've been kind of monitoring that, and it's a curious thing for me. Babies have big, weird-looking heads. They smell different. Their movements are erratic. So I can see why dogs who aren't accustomed to being around kids freak out because they're so unpredictable. It's like they're little drunk people, little like it's weird. So I think the dogs are kind of like, all right, we get it now. But originally, I think her crying stressed them out. So they would just come get me like, look, what's happening?
Right.
But I think now they're all fine with it. Like I've sent you pictures of her in her playpen and like the cat will just come sleep with her.
Right.
And the cat generally follows her everywhere. wherever she is, the cat is within 3 or 4 feet.
Really?
And she's in love with the cat. And the cat's super patient. She's not really she's a grabby kid, but not with animals. Like she's not grabbing their eyes and biting, doing anything like that. And because she sees me petting them, she kind of mirrors. She's really good at mirroring behaviors. Even with learning how to hold the bottle, I've just been using her bottle in front of her, one of these little sippy cups, and now she's doing it. She doesn't quite know how to turn it up, but she'll like bear hug it and try to, do that. But I think, the cat and her are like legit friends. Which
Love
is
it.
interesting. Yeah.
Next week on the Embracing the Journey podcast.
They don't know about our story. They don't know the things that we were up against. They don't know how we got to where we are.
We were born during the crack epidemic. Our house was the trap house. My mind took me back to 3 little boys sharing a bed, 2 at the foot, 1 at the head, running extension cords to the neighbors' houses. You know what I mean? Like we literally didn't have a door. There was one place we lived where every time a neighbor would flush their toilets, sewage would come out of the floor. So when I look at something like Embrace the Journey, that's literally, I think, how we got here, was embracing the journey, not getting discouraged, not giving up on ourselves, but being able to tap into those moments. Because even if you don't remember the details, without knowing anything about what's going on at your house right now, I know your refrigerator is filled to the point of gluttony.
Oh, for sure.
Because we never had that.